Okay, welcome everybody to Food is Medicine. And surprise, we have a guest host joining us
Hi.
tonight. This is Jennifer, and you've heard her talking on our classes before and cooking with her partner at home. So, miigwech Jen for joining us tonight. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. So I'm going to be taking over for David tonight. David's just not feeling well, so I thought I'd pop in and show you how to make fish tacos this evening. So I just wanted to quickly do a land acknowledgement. We're currently on Treaty 1 territory, the home of the Anishinaabe Cree, Oji Cree, Dene, Lakota, and homeland of the Métis Nation. And tonight we're going to cook some fish tacos. So I'm really excited to show you. I'm going to get started, but first I just wanted to do some quick house rules. So just always keep your phone on mute when you're joining us. And then just if you have a quick question, you can pop on and say hello, and then we'll kind of get to you from there. You can also use the chat feature. I find that really helpful, and Chris and Karen will kind of check that out if you have any questions. Feel free to jump in if you need to, if you have any questions or you want me to clarify a step that I'm doing. This is my first time doing this, so I'm going to try to be very thorough and talk about what I'm doing as I'm doing it. But if I've missed something, please feel free to stop me and I will repeat what I'm doing. So we'll get started. I'll do a quick overhead shot and I'll show you what I've done to prep my space. And this is what we're going to do to get started. So as you can see on my main cutting board here, I have started with my fish. I'm just working through just getting the skin off, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, but I'll just quickly show you my utensils. On the list today, I said that you would need a baking pan, some parchment paper, so I've prepared that here. Just on the side here, I'll kind of quickly throw it in the camera. Got that ready to go. I also put a couple knives here just so that I have it ready to go to cut the fish and fillet. I have some cutting boards extra, for one for my fish and then one for my veggies. And then I also have some small bowls just so I can put the mixture we're going to be making with the cabbage, as well as for the homemade salsa. And then I have a whisk for the sauce that we're going to be making. And then I'll also have a few spatula to move the fish, and some measuring cups and measuring spoons. So that's pretty much what you need to get started. I have all the spices out as well, my oil that I need, and a couple other things. I got my cheese in the fridge because cheese gets cooled down quite fast, and I find it's easier just to grab it before we need it. So that's pretty much it right now. So we'll get started. I'm just gonna take a quick sip of water. Then you can go to Karen. Hi, Karen.
Hi. So, while Jen is hydrating, I want to let you know that we're really grateful to have the gift of this fish that had been given to us through the distribution that happened earlier this spring. So this is local fish. It's pickerel that comes from our land and waters, caught by our Indigenous First Nations fishermen, and processed and given away so it wouldn't go to waste, that it would be able to nourish our families, be able to give us that sense of home. And because this fish comes from our waters, from our home territory and our homeland, it has more than that protein, more than that nourishing physical part. There's a spiritual and emotional connection as well, because it comes from our land. Our people are connected here and have been for many, 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 many years. My grandpa was a trapper and a fisherman. I know that others have grandparents who did the same, and out on the lake or going on the weekend, and lots of our people still do that, which is really, really wonderful. But our ancestors come from this land, and maybe that fish we're going to cook with tonight came from a lake that my grandpa fished, or your grandpa fished, or someone that we know fished. So that spiritual connection, that emotional connection is there, and it nourishes us on so many more levels than just that physical. And tacos, woo. Back to Jen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen. So I'm just going to quickly show you what I'm going to be working on next. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm preparing fish is to I want to take the skin off. Some people leave it on, especially if you're cooking it in the oven. But I'm going to take it off because I just find that a little bit better for fish tacos, but feel free to do what you'd like. It's also easier to cut too without the skin. So I'm just going to take this. I've already kind of started here. So I'm starting at the sort of narrow side of the fish here. Hopefully you can see this clearly. So I'm going like this. So I'm putting my knife sort of parallel with the cutting board, and I'm just going to grab the very end of the fish and just kind of slide my knife in there. So I'm keeping my hand, sorry, I'm going to move up here. I'm keeping my hand pretty flat so I don't cut myself as well, but also so I can kind of keep the fish down so I can get underneath there and get that skin. So I'm just sliding it under here so I can grab that piece. And then I'm going to do it again. So just bring it back a little bit more. And you should have enough to grab here. So I have quite a big like piece. So I'm going to see if I can bring this over a little bit. So I have enough of the skin kind of hanging off that you should be able to pull it. If you find that it's still too tough, you can also take the knife on it a little bit more too. So I'll bring it back. Let's cut a little bit more. And I'm going to peel it off. It was a lot easier with the first piece I did, but that's usually how it goes. When you're doing it on camera, it's going to be tougher. Okay. How many of you have got a lot of experience with deboning and filleting fish? Do a lot of you do that? I know a lot with my family, they did it, but I didn't really grow up doing it as much. But my family that lives on the res definitely worked the fish a lot. My great grandpa was a fisherman. Okay, so I'm going to take this side and do it again.
There, that looks like it's working really well with the
yeah, there's a
wiggle
little tough
motion.
spot there. So sometimes you can still pull it off like this, but this one's a little bit trickier. So I'm just going to flip it over and do it this side. Looks like I got most of it. I actually saw something really cool online the other day that some people save the fish skins and then they crisp that up too and cook it and eat it. Kind of like a chip. So I'm saving my scraps because I just want to make sure, for me, like with stuff like this, if I can, I try to save it. And then I try to put it in the fire or put it out in the woods, kind of like a feast dish, just because I just want to make sure I'm respecting, especially fish when we use with wild meat or anything like that, that we're being kind to the stuff that we're using and we're giving it back in a way. So I'm just going to cut my fish now. For something like fish tacos, I would like to cut it in like decent sized pieces to get them to fry. I don't want it to be like a scramble. You still want the pieces to be pretty meaty. And then we want to fry them and season them. So we'll bake them and season them. So I'm going to cut them into little strips like this. So I got a few pieces here like that. Some of my pieces are smaller than the others, but that's okay. In this package of tacos, I think there's 10. So you could try to get like 10 pieces or even just like 5 big ones and then cut them in half too once they're cooked. So you could even cut them like that. They'll shrink down a little bit too once they lose a bit of moisture. All right, so I got some good pieces here. How's everybody doing?
Everybody looks okay. I'm not seeing any questions.
All right. Okay, so I got some good pieces here. You might find a few bones in your fish. These are pretty like, they're not very big. You can pull them out if you can. I pulled one out here. The way that the fish is too on the top is that it's kind of like easy to grab, but if you want to, you can debone them. So sometimes you just like want to cut like that, cut it at an angle, and you can pull that kind of bony piece out. You can put that with your scraps, or you can cook it up too if you don't mind a few bones. They're not too bad. Not like you see them in pictures. Okay, perfect. So that's all good to go. So this one's pretty easy. I already have the oven preheated. You can get your oven started right now if you'd like. I have it at 375. So mine's ready to go, but I'll give it a few minutes and I'm going to get my parchment paper tray ready to go. So I'm just going to line my fish up on my tray. I'm going to move this over a little bit.
And while you're doing that, Jen, I just want to let you know that Ginger and Russell say that they're using whitefish and pickerel today. So
wonderful.
That sounds delish.
Very good. So this Recipe calls for olive oil, but you can still use vegetable oil or canola oil, anything like that is totally fine. Your small pieces are going to cook a lot faster. So I would put them, like you can put them a little closer together too. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so it looks like I got enough on here. I'm going to sneak a few more of these small pieces in. All right.
That looks great.
Yeah, so there's a couple little scrap pieces here. I'm just going to throw it into the middle. It'll cook fast. So there we go. So that's all ready to go. I'm going to wash my hands now and put my cutting board away. This is all my fish goods. And so once I have that, I'm just going to wash my hands quickly. And that way I'm going to be touching all the spices now. So I want my hands to be clean.
Yeah, and I'm watching some of the kitchens and I'm seeing the families cooking together and getting things ready. So that's pretty awesome. You can give a wave or if you need any help. Hi, Catherine. I see you waving. Hi, Ginger. I see
Okay.
you.
Excellent. All right. So got the fish here. I'm going to move it so we got a little bit more of a view. My fish is on my parchment paper. Got that ready to go. I'm going to take, I have a little tiny container here. It's just a little Tupperware. You can use a small glass bowl or whatever. I'm just going to put my spice mixture all together in here and kind of mix it up. And then that way I'm going to sprinkle it over my fish. So it'll be a little bit easier. First, before I do that, I'm going to grab my oil. I don't need too much of it, but I will put a little bit in the measuring cup just so it's easier to pour and I'm not overdoing it. So I'm going to put a little bit over each piece of fish. You can be a bit more like all over the place with it, but just make sure everybody's getting some oil. Do a little bit more. Perfect. And that way your spice mixture sticks and it gives it a bit of flavor too. Typically we fry in oil, but baking in oil is really great too. Perfect. So that's good to go. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to do my spice mixture. I have little measuring spoons here. You can just eyeball it too, but the recipe has sort of a specific mixture it's calling for. So I'm just going to follow that, make it nice and easy. So the recipe says in a small dish, combine some seasonings, which is half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, half a teaspoon of salt, and a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. So I got my cumin. Cumin can be kind of strong. I don't mind it for something like fish tacos. I feel like it really complements it. So I don't find it too overpowering.
Sorry, I'm just a little bit behind. I just have the fish on the parchment paper now.
Yeah.
What do I do next? Do I put oil on the fish?
Yeah, so you can just oil your fish from the top. You don't have to kind of coat them all. You can just kind of pour a little bit over each piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I just have my half teaspoon here. I'm throwing that in my little dish. And then I'm going to do cayenne. So if you don't like a lot of heat, like you don't have to do cayenne pepper. You can do like seasoning salt or something like that, but it's not too much because there's quite a bit of fish. I'm using a little bit of a smaller portion than we gave you just because there's only the two of us here. So you might have you have about 3 pieces. So you probably have a bigger pan than I do too, which is perfect for that. So this will be enough like spice or enough spice mixture to kind of adequately get your fish coated, but not like overly seasoned. So I got the half teaspoon of cumin, half teaspoon of cayenne, and now I'm going to add my half teaspoon of salt. Perfect. And then it said a quarter teaspoon of pepper. Overdid it there. Classic. The rest of that goes in the sink. There we go. Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna mix this up. You can take a little fork in it. I'm just shaking mine. I just find it easier if it's all mixed up before you start throwing it on.
How does it smell?
It smells great. It smells like really light and fresh because of the cumin. Kind of brightens it. Perfect. So I got kind of nicely mixed there. Perfect.
That looks great. Yum.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So you can be like a bit more precise, like you can kind of put your fingers in it and kind of go over each one, which is what I think I'll do, just so that everybody gets some. And then whatever's left, I'll just kind of put over the top.
While you're doing that, we just have a comment from Alicia. Thanks, Alicia, for that reminder that especially if younger kids are going to be eating the tacos, that we need to be mindful of those bones. The tail pieces are usually the ones with the fewest bones.
For sure.
But you can rub your finger along the fillet and you'll be able to feel it and pull them out, or as Jen showed us, to cut a little bit to take those bones out. So
yeah, if you just cut them at an angle, you can kind of like get around that piece and slip it out. I did that with one piece actually. There wasn't too many bones in my piece, thankfully. Hopefully there's not too many in yours. And then that way it's not too bad, but that's a great reminder. Thank you so much for mentioning that. Okay, so everything's kind of coated. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit extra. So these are like good general seasonings for lots of stuff. So if you have a little bit left over, you can even save it for the end, or you can toss it in your coleslaw mixture we're going to be making after.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm at. I finished skinning the fish and I have it on parchment paper and I oiled it. Now,
Oh, perfect.
do I put the brown stuff on?
The brown stuff?
Yeah.
What's the brown stuff?
The brown bag. It's not labeled. Was browned.
But oh yeah, so that's there should be cumin that you have and then cayenne. So cumin would also go on your fish.
Two bags of spices, cayenne, and then one that's not marked.
Oh, okay, so someone must have forgot to write on that one. Sorry about that. That's cumin. So you just use a little bit. You probably just need about a half a teaspoon of that that spice mixture, the cumin, the brown one. Yeah.
Oh, that's for the sauce?
Yeah, that's that's actually for the fish. So you want to season your fish with half a teaspoon of each of those.
Okay, and then the cayenne pepper as well.
Yes, yeah, both of those, yeah.
Sure. Okay, then that's where I'm at. Okay, I'll do that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, great.
Excellent. Okay, so I've got myself a little cutting board here. You should have got a stick of butter. So with the stick of butter, I'm just going to cut. I'm going to open this bad boy. I'm notoriously bad at opening packages without ripping them. My partner hates that about me because I always like really mess up opening stuff. I like ruin cereal boxes and like chip bags. So I eat them really fast because then they go stale. So I'm just going to open this up here. Okay, perfect. Excellent. So you can just grab a butter knife or just a small knife, whatever works. And you just want to like cut off a little tiny square. So for each little, you can even like for some small pieces, I have some really small pieces here. I'm just going to cut my little square in half. So I have like a piece like that. And then I'm going to take one half and I'm just going to put it on top of each piece of fish.
So that'll help with the moisture, will help add that flavor. There's nothing better than butter. So Ginger has a question. If we use the olive oil, do we need to add the butter?
You definitely don't. It's just in the recipe, and I think it was just for flavor. I find that, especially with like whitefish, a little bit of butter is really nice. But what you can do is if you don't want to do it at this point, sometimes people will just brush it on afterwards once it's kind of coming out of the oven and it will melt really fast. So that's something you can do too. You can just brush it on at the end, but you don't have to use it at all. It's totally up to you. I feel like olive oil is definitely like enough. It's also like a nice like fatty acid. So both of those have those like good fats. And for something like this, it's a good balance, but totally your call.
So I want to congratulate Jordan and her husband on the birth of their baby girl.
Ooh.
And I'm really happy that you joined us again.
Oh my gosh,
tonight.
congratulations. That's so exciting. That's the one thing I really miss. I've had so many friends have little tiny adorable babies and I haven't been able to snuggle them, but hopefully soon. That's what I pray for, is to get to snuggle all the cute little babies.
Yeah,
Perfect.
with the vaccine rollouts, hopefully things will improve.
Totally. Perfect. So we actually have a lot of leftover Rice Krispies here from last week, so this will be great for that.
Yay, more Rice Krispies square.
Perfect. Okay, so my fish is ready to go. How's everyone doing?
But I'm not seeing any waving.
Everyone's good?
Yeah, looks like they're good.
Perfect. So I'm going to throw this in the oven. I have it at 375. Putting this in here. Okay. So that's good. So that being in the oven gives us some time to kind of work on some of our other things, which is great. Frees up a little bit of our space too. So I'm just going to get my stuff back in the sink here. I'm going to wash my hands again.
And we use the time frame of about 15 to 20 minutes baking in the oven. It could be done sooner. It might take a little bit longer. Just check it, and when it's whitish, opaque, kind of glistening, it'll be ready. And then you can even broil it a little bit to get some browning. Perfect.
Thank you so much, Karen. Yeah, exactly. So I would take a look at it about like 10 minutes. Depends on your oven. Like some ovens are super powerful and some are take a bit more time for things. So I think that I'm going to check it in about 10 minutes after I finish one of my tasks here. And then if I feel like it's getting close, then I'll probably put it on broil for a few minutes and just keep checking it. Usually with broil, you want to you set it to broil, you keep it open a little bit and you just keep an eye on it because that thing can go from 0 to 60 real fast.
Okay, so I'm timing for 10 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Karen. I'm just going to wipe down my spot here where I was working. Just real quick. There we go. Okay. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to start on the coleslaw next. And I think that I would call it just the regular slaw because it's not quite as many ingredients as a coleslaw. So you've all gotten a half cabbage. Now, a half cabbage is a lot of cabbage. You can definitely save some of this. What I usually do is I peel off the cacao layer and take that out of here. Again, that goes to my scrap. So I have a little scrap bowl going. I'm going to throw that in there. Perfect. And then once I get all the stuff off that I want. Okay, so that's the stuff that kind of usually the ends are just a little bit roughed up from the grocery store. So I'm going to take a few pieces and I'll show you what I find the easiest way to cut something like this. So I'll take a few layers off at a time. They might break, that's okay. It's not a big deal. But you basically want to stack your layers like this. I'm going to rinse them as well, but just stack them. Once you get to this big thick piece, like this white part, that's pretty thick. You don't really have to put that into there. That would actually be really good if you wanted to save it for something like a soup, because those thick pieces will boil and then, you can kind of double purpose that. But I'm peeling off those like big kind of stem pieces. And then I'm like my nice thin pieces I want for the coleslaw. So putting those there. I'm going to take off a few more. So in case you make a quick hamburger soup at home, I love adding cabbage. It's so yummy. So you could save something like this if you want to make that in the week. Awesome. Okay, let's grab a little bit more. I like a lot on my tacos. I think it's nice to have that crunch, get a good mix of textures for each thing.
I think that cabbage freezes really well too. So if you only use part of it, you could slice it up or dice it up and into baggies and throw it in the freezer for when you make soup.
Absolutely. Okay, so there's another big piece. Okay, so I've got like quite a bit here. You kind of see a nice thick pile. You could even use it for sandwiches. Okay, so I'm gonna put it in a strainer, and then I'm just gonna rinse it just to make sure it's nice and clean. Rinse it with some cold water.
Yeah, I'm checking the kitchens. Looks like everybody's doing well.
Awesome. Okay.
So
And you can
Jen's
always
just-
go back and get more too if you need. Okay. So once it's washed, I still like to do the same thing where I put it back into that little stack. If you have like a big piece that came off, use that as your bottom piece. I find that the easiest. Okay, so I'm going to take a small little like pile like this. See that? There's like probably about 6 or 7 pieces here. And what I like to do is, it's called like a chiffonade. It's a way to sort of cut things, and so you get really fine little pieces. And I find that really nice for eating something like tacos, because you don't want it to sort of like be falling out and it be too big. And this is a really easy technique. So I got a knife here. I want it a little bit bigger just to make it easier to chop. And what you're going to do is you're going to like roll it kind of like this with all your little pieces here. So I got it kind of like a big, looks like a burrito. So it looks like that. All right. So what you're going to do, you want to make sure you're tucking your thumb in so you don't chop it. And you're going to cut in like really little slices. So I'm going to try to show you this. The smaller you go, the thinner those pieces will be, and your coleslaw will be like nice and fine. You can get really thin, or you can go a little bit thicker. It depends on what you like. You know how they have that on like subs or burgers? They have that really like nicely finely chopped lettuce. This is the same technique. Okay, so I don't know if you can see this, but it's pretty fine. It's like very small little pieces. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to throw it into a bowl.
So I'm wishing I had one of those mind blown emojis right now, because I didn't know that. That's an awesome technique.
Isn't that great?
I always thought you would use like the shredder or the mandolin, and
yeah, I think maybe they probably do use a shredder, because that would probably be a lot faster for how much stuff they have to make in restaurants. But I remember when I worked in kitchens for quite a while, and this is what we had to do. So we did it for herbs too, which is really great for like basil, because basil is really like soft, and when you kind of are really rough with it, it starts to change its flavor a little bit. So with something like this, folding it into those pieces without sort of like manipulating it too much is really good. Awesome. So we got a nice little bowl of finely chopped there.
Right on.
I'm just gonna, the last little bit's a bit harder to cut, so just be careful. Perfect. Okay. So you can kind of break it up with your hands. Excellent. So I still have a little bit more in the sink here. I'm going to grab that and chop these up too.
Oh, and we have our reminder that you can go to YouTube and search for First Nations Family Advocate Office and like, share, and subscribe. Our past recipes will be on that YouTube channel. And if you had missed out on any of weeks 1 to 8, we're at week 9 today, you can search that YouTube channel and join us for other recipes. again, our social media. Twitter, we're at FNFAOMB. Facebook, First Nations Family Advocate. And Instagram, FNFAO. And our hashtag, I'm waiting on our hashtag, food as medicine. So tag us in your completed meals. We would very much love to see how you made out and to hear your feedback about how the workshop series has been for you, suggestions for future. We're hoping that we might be able to keep going with it or extend it a little bit, but hearing your feedback is helpful.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed hearing how it's been for you at home, and it's really helped us to, sort of figure out what we can get and make sure that you have, so this is easy for you. And, if there's any sort of other techniques or things you want to learn that makes cooking easier for you, you just let us know, and we'd love to cover that kind of stuff. Perfect. So we got a nice bundle of cabbage here, finely chopped, which is great.
What is the name of that technique again, Jen?
It's called chiffonade. I think it's spelled like CHIFFONADE.
Cool. Thank you.
Perfect. So I'm just rinsing my cutting board. Okay. So next, we're going to make the sauce that's going to go with this. There's two ways you can do this. I think because cabbage is pretty hardy and it's pretty stiff, something that softens it, and a good technique to soften things that are kind of stiff like that, like kale or cabbage, is to use a little bit of acid. So something like lemon juice or lime juice. So we're going to use lime juice. You can also use the mixture and add it right to the coleslaw and just make it all one thing, or you can add your sauce on as a separate thing. So I'm going to make it as a mixture because I find that that's just easier. It also keeps it together so it's not falling off while you're eating it. And tacos are already messy, so this sort of just makes it a little bit easier. So we're going to make the mixture. I'm going to grab a little bowl. And then we're going to make the taco sauce. Does anybody have any questions?
We're about a minute till we check our fish.
Okay, perfect. So I just got my bowl out here, and I'll just kind of go to where that part is on the recipe. So the taco sauce. So the taco sauce is going to be half a cup of sour cream, 1/3 of a cup of mayonnaise, 2 tablespoons of juice from a lime, and 1 teaspoon garlic powder. I'm going to use fresh garlic because I don't have any garlic powder on hand. You can also use that too if you'd like, or you can just use garlic powder, whatever is easier. If you don't like a lot of garlic too, you can totally omit it and it will just be a creamy sauce. And that's pretty much what's going to be needed for that part. There's also, you can also add a little bit of salt and pepper too if you'd like. So I'm going to get ready to check on my fish. Oh, it looks good.
Could you repeat the ingredients?
Yeah, for the taco sauce? Absolutely, yeah. So that's going to be a half a cup of sour cream, 1/3 of a cup of mayonnaise, 1 tablespoon of juice from a lime, 2 tablespoons of juice from a lime, and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. And I'm going to make that next. I'm just going to pull out my fish so you can see it right now. Okay, so, oh, perfect. I'm not used to this. So that's what it looks like right now.
Wow.
Looks great. So I'm going to leave it for a little bit longer. I'm going to give it about, just because the inside still looks like it needs to get a little bit whiter. So usually you want to see that sort of more white texture as opposed to that transparent texture. I'm going to wait for about 5 more minutes and then I'm going to broil it.
Awesome. And in your bags, you would have had a rolled up paper. Your recipe will be in there, just in case.
That is correct. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna do the sauce in that 5. Karen, do you mind setting a timer for me? Is that okay?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll just do 5 minutes and I'll check
5 minutes? Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. So I'm just cracking open the sour cream right now. All right. Got my mayonnaise. Oh.
Hey,
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
I'm already done cooking everything.
Yeah?
And I had a nacho platter with just regular beef for my daughters because they
Oh,
don't eat
nice.
Okay.
fish too.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I cooked mine in a pan, but
Okay.
my phone is dying.
Okay.
But I'll take pictures and send them to your website or
Yes.
your.
That sounds great. We would
Sounds
love that.
great.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
having
joining us. Take care,
Thanks,
Peter.
Peter. Enjoy.
me. Take care.
All right. So we're going to make the sauce right now. So it's saying to do 1/2 cup of sour cream. So I got a little spoon here. I'm going to get in here. I'm going to measure it just because I like to measure. My cuckoo would yell at me. She'd be like, eyeball it. Come on, girl. You can eyeball it. I believe in you. Okay.
Oh, yes. And I see Phoebe is making chicken breast
Oh,
for
yeah. Right on.
tacos for her daughter as, oh, she's not a fan of fish. So, yeah, there's so many variations for tacos. You can do the fish,
Absolutely.
hamburger, chicken, even beef. So,
Yes.
or moose meat. If you're lucky enough to have moose meat, that would make great tacos.
Totally. And actually, if you the seasoning that we use for the fish is also really good for what we're doing or for chicken too. It works for either or, so it's pretty universal, which is great. Then we need 1/3 cup of sour cream. So I have a full cup measure here. My 1/3 cup is missing. It's AWOL, so I'm just going to do 1/3 of this with some mayonnaise. I'm going to grab another spoon. Probably 1 good scoop should do it. Just for how big that is, maybe a little bit more. Okay, perfect. So that's all good in there. Okay, so now the juice from a lime. Okay, this is another little trick too for limes. If you don't have one of those like lime or lemon presses, or you don't have like one of those juicers, what I like to do is it's called rolling your lime. So it's just any sort of like citrus you have that is like pretty hard from the grocery store. You just want to roll it on a table like this. You can kind of do it a few different directions. It's easier on the side, obviously, because there's no top. You just want it to be a little bit more like squishy. If you're really strong, that's even better. You can probably start to smell it when you do this too, which is great. And what that does is it just makes it easier for you to squeeze and get the juice out. So for this mixture for the taco sauce, you want to use probably a whole one, just because these are a little bit, I mean, they're pretty standard, but they're smaller. And then you're going to cut it half. So I cut it like along the side, not where the like the ends are, and that makes it easier to squeeze as well.
So we're about a minute, so we check the fish again.
Perfect. So got 2 nice little limes here. You could save half if you want. Depends on how much you want to mix in here. I'm going to do a whole one, and you're just going to squeeze the life out of it right in here.
So should we be worried about seeds in limes?
Some of it might fall out if you catch it, but they're really like not very seedy compared to like a lemon. They're very like, they don't have as big as seeds. I've used like, I pretty much make the salsa recipe we're gonna make like once a week, and I've never seen a seed come out actually, now that you say that.
Okay.
Perfect.
That's
So
good to know, because I know lemons are very seedy.
yes, they are. It's true. Perfect. Okay, so I'm gonna get ready to check. So that I just squeezed one side in. You can see it looks pretty hairy. That one's good. I'm gonna wipe my hands. And I'm gonna get ready to check my fish. You can probably squeeze the other one in because it does say 2 tablespoons, which is quite a lot of juice. So you're probably gonna get like close to that with just 1 lime. And the other lime we're gonna need for our Pico de Gallo. All right, so let's check this piece. Oh yeah, so now it's really bubbling, which is great. Show it to you. So that looks
Wow.
a lot better. a lot more cooked through. If you have any thicker pieces too, you could kind of break it up too if you want. The broiling should also help. So now I'm going to broil it. That we have to keep a bit more of an eye on. So I'm going to keep my oven open a little crack here. You can see that it's like has that little notch. Keep it open a crack, and I'm going to switch it to broil. So I'm going to broil on high and let it do its thing. So it's going to leave me about 2 minutes, and I'm going to come here and squeeze this other lamb.
Okay, and we're at 5:45.
Perfect. So the pico de gallo won't take long. I'll show you that, and then we'll assemble one. You can also get your pan heated up on the stove top to heat your tortillas. There's 2 ways you can heat tortillas. One is wrapping them in a paper towel, and you just put it in the microwave for like 20-second intervals until it's like hot enough. You probably only need about like 40 seconds max. And you can heat them like that without frying them on the actual pan. I'm going to fry them on the pan because you can also, when you're frying it on the pan, put a little cheese down and then it melts on there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. How long did you say? I missed that. Do you put it on broil? I'm putting my fish on broil now.
Yeah.
Just
So I'm putting
2
it on.
minutes.
Yeah. So I'm just doing 2 minutes. I'm just gonna. I can
2
kind of see it
minutes,
from here. It looks like it could use a bit more time. So
Okay,
I'm just gonna. Perfect. I'm just
Okay,
gonna
thank
mix this
you.
up. Yeah, no problem. I'm gonna add garlic to this too. I'm mixing this up with the lime juice. You can use the whisk too. I'm just going to use the spoon. The spoon's already in there, but a whisk will also be good. And then I'm going to quickly crack a garlic clove to throw in there. I don't know if you've chopped a lot of garlic cloves. I know we've been giving them in a lot of recipes so far, but I'm going to get one ready here. It's all right. I do the side of the knife, bash it. Then I pull off the peel. Comes off easy like that. I usually cut off this little like end piece, this little brown bit, just because it's kind of harder to bite. And then I'm going to cut it into lengthwise pieces. Just chop it finely. Put it all together and get some little finely chopped bits.
And we're at 2 minutes on the fish.
Okay, perfect. I can see it from here and it looks like it could use a bit more time. I'm going to turn it around. Just going to
Excellent.
quickly finish what I'm chopping here. Sometimes the front of the oven too, when you're broiling, is like a bit cooler because it's open. But I'm going to. So you want to chop up your garlic pretty like small if you're doing fresh garlic in your sauce for the. I'm just going over it as much as I can. Okay, I'm gonna go check the fish. Perfect. Oh yeah, that looks nice. So it isn't quite brown on the top yet. I'm gonna cook it a little bit longer. I'm just gonna spin it around so that it's facing the other way. So the other side gets a bit more broiled. And I'll do another 2 minutes of that too.
Okay.
Okay, so just copying this a bit more, and then we're going to do that salsa real quick. All right, so I'm adding this to my sauce. There we go. I'm mixing it in. So if you have garlic powder, you can use that. I had fresh garlic on hand. And now the taco sauce is ready. I'm going to put it right into here. I'm just going to put a little bit at a time. Perfect.
Are you putting the sour cream mix in the cabbage?
Yeah, I'm putting in the cabbage. You don't have to. You can totally put it as like a separate side, kind of like you would put sour cream on tacos. I'm just going to mix mine with this.
Okay.
Yeah, you can totally do it either way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I just find this keeps like the cabbage together on your taco so it doesn't fall all over the place. So
Yeah, I apologize for the misstep in the recipe or the option to mix it into the cabbage. I've never made fish tacos, so I'm learning here as we go. And I want to say thanks to Catherine for joining us for the class. She has to get going and
okay.
with her kids. And she
Right
said it was
on.
really fun and have a good
Awesome.
evening.
Thank you so much. Okay, so checking the fish. I'm going to pull it out probably right away. I'm going to put it on top of my stovetop. I've got some little things here just to let it cool down. Perfect. Looks good.
Wow.
Awesome. So I'll turn my oven off. Looks very yummy. So what you can do once we do the fish part is you can kind of like break up those big pieces into smaller ones, or you can just keep them just like that and throw it right in a taco, whatever works for you. All right, so just gonna wipe down my spot a little bit. And now we're going to do the salsa. This is my favorite part. I make this all the time. I rarely share it. I eat it by myself. Got no shame in my game. Awesome. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll start with the lime just because that's sort of the easiest thing. We'll get that all squeezed up. The biggest, most important part is like how you cut how finely you want to cut everything. If you want chunky salsa, you'll cut it in big pieces. If you want it to be pretty like fine, just cut it in smaller pieces. And also when you're cutting something like a jalapeno, you can use gloves if you have them in your house, because when you cut a jalapeno, you got to be careful and wash your hands a lot because it will be a little bit uncomfortable. So now I'm just squeezing the lime into the bottom of my dish where I'm going to throw all my salsa ingredients. Perfect. Really got to squeeze it. There we go. Gotta have thumbs of steel for this. There are all these things you can buy that will do this for you, which is easy, which is a lemon or a lime press. They usually come for both sizes in one, which is great. Just gonna get a little bit more. Okay, perfect. Excellent. All right. I'm gonna do the onion first. I find the onion, I'm probably gonna cry. I'm an onion crier. Don't mind me. It's been an emotional day. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm gonna peel off my outer layer here. I've already gone ahead and washed my tomatoes and my jalapeno.
I saw in the recipe that rather than a white onion or yellow onion, you're doing a red one.
Yeah.
Is it sweeter or?
I find it a little bit sweeter, but you can use yellow or red. That's totally fine. I just find that like this just has a bit more of a brightness. But yellow onions and white onions are totally good with that too. I often use white onions for it too. My onion has a bit of like the sort of the other side. You want to keep like the part where it has the stem, sort of the little danglies hanging out. You want to keep that intact. I'm going to show you how I'm going to cut this onion to make it really finely chopped. And then you're going to cut off this part though, the bottom part, but you're going to leave the stem on. If you notice that some of your onion on the inside is like a bit yellowish, that just means it's sprouted. You can take those pieces out if you don't like that, but it's no problem to eat it like that. Okay. Okay, so with an onion like this, what you want to do is you want to cut it parallel. So like you want to cut it like this in two different cuts. And you're not going to cut all the way to the end. You're going to cut till you reach about the stem here. So you're going to go parallel to the cutting board. You're going to hold it flat and you're going to bring your knife like this in one cut. And that's like one layer. So be very careful. And then you're going to do one more. You could even do three if you want them really finely cut, but we'll just, for the sake of time, we'll do. So this is what they do in the kitchen to kind of get those like really fine chops. And now, once you have those, you're going to see it's in like 2 layers here. See that? You could even do one more if you have like a big onion. This one's kind of big, so I'm going to do one more. Perfect. So kind of looks like that, a cross section, but it's not coming apart because you kept the stem on. So now you're going to go toward with the tip of your blade, you're going to point toward the stem, and you're going to cut not all the way to the end. You're going to cut just before it stops. See that one cut a little bit too soon. Just before the end, not all the way. And one more. And then you're going to turn it sideways, and you're going to cut it into little cubes. And that will give you some finely chopped onions.
Excellent. And thank you, Jasmine. I saw that beautiful pieces of fish. They look great.
And then that piece that you have, you'll end up with like you can just cut off the top since you already cross-sectioned it. It will be cutting really easy. You won't have too many like little long pieces. So now you have like perfectly chopped onions like that. I'm going to throw this into my bowl. If you have a really big onion, some of them are really big that we gave and some of them are kind of small. You could save some just as topping. Throw it in your coleslaw if you want. I'm going to use it all for this salsa. Actually, you know what? I'll save a little bit for the taco. Perfect. So that's in there. I'm going to throw this in a bowl and I'm crying. Those onions, they get you. Okay, perfect. That's good. Now tomatoes are easy. You can cut off the stem if you want to, you don't have to. Sorry for my scrap mess, don't mind that. And you're just gonna cut them in long pieces like this, across from the bottom. Maybe one more here. Okay, and then you're just gonna chop them. So you can chop it in a stack, but I find tomatoes are a bit slippery. So you're cutting it lengthwise, and then you're cutting it the other way. So you get nice little pieces like that. And then I'm gonna throw them in there. Perfect.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, Pico is great. If you like salsa and chips, you're gonna love this. It's such an easy thing to make. It's cheap too. It's not that expensive if you buy like the supplies. And I find it just a bit more fresh to add to dishes than just like jarred salsa. But jarred salsa has its purpose too. It's great. You can even use it as like a marinade for chicken or like anything really. And it's quick and convenient. But this is just a bit more fresh.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of that topping, the tomato mixture for bruschetta.
Oh yeah, totally. It's actually really similar to bruschetta, except for instead of well, actually, the really only thing you would omit here to make it to be bruschetta would just be the jalapeno, and then you would add basil.
Oh.
Instead of like something like cilantro. So they're really similar.
Lillian, I see your hand up. Did you have a question?
Do we top up the jalapeno really finely with gloves on? You said, yeah?
Yeah, I would chop it finely if you can. I'll show you how I do it. I'm just gonna throw it to Karen real quick because I just have to run and wash my hands and blow my nose and the other way around.
While Jennifer's getting ready to do the jalapeno, I'm going to give you a little bit of that history of that pico de gallo. You would have seen it in the recipe. It says pico de gallo can mean a lot of things in Mexico. In one community, pico is grapefruit salad. And in another region, it's a fresh fruit salad. So locally here in North America, though, pico de gallo is homemade salsa. So I thought that was really neat because when they had proposed the pico de gallo recipe, I was like, what does that even mean? So I'm learning too, and I'm looking forward to trying this recipe. You ready,
Okay.
Glenn?
Yeah, I'm good. So I'm just finishing up chopping these tomatoes. So right now, if you have someone helping you, what you can do is you can heat up your tortillas now. I'm going to get my pan heated up right away. We're running out of time here.
So we are just almost to 6. So if you don't
Okay.
mind hang another 5 more minutes.
Perfect.
We'll get it all finished up.
Yeah. Thank you for waiting with me. I appreciate it. It's my first one. David's really good at the time crunch. So just chopping these tomatoes. Also, one thing too is having a good sharp knife is really good for something like this. Tomatoes are kind of soft, so if your knife is a bit dull, it can be a bit hard to cut them. And it's also a bit safer too, because sometimes when it's dull, you end up slipping and it can be a bit dangerous. So if you can get a sharp knife, it's a good asset to your kitchen. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so the tomatoes are done. Add those here. Once this is all done, you're just going to mix it. The recipe just calls for salt in here. I like to add a little bit of cumin too. Just my preference. I'm going to add a bit of garlic as well. Chop that up really quick. And I'll show you the jalapeno really fast too. I cut a jalapeno like that. I cut the stem off. If you don't want it to be too spicy, you want to take out the ribbing and the seeds. If you don't mind a bit of spice, you want to keep the seeds and the ribbing in. But if you find it a bit too hot, I would only do like half the jalapeno and make sure not to put the ribbing and the seeds. Okay, so garlic's done. Okay. I also put, sorry.
I'm dazzled by your knife work.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut the stem off, cut it lengthwise. So you're gonna see that here. If you want to cut this out, I'll show you what you do. You take it like this, and then you just want to take your knife right at the edge of the stem is, where the stem was, I should say, and you want to cut around, go from each side just for safety, and then you cut out that piece, and this should come right out, like one piece. If you missed it or if it came apart, you just do the same thing, and you just want to grab that ribbing and take out that middle piece. I don't mind stems because I find or I don't mind the inner part. I like it a bit spicy. And then once this is like that, it's pretty flat. You can just push it down like this. Just push it flat on the cutting board. And you're going to cut it in long slices. The smaller the slices, the smaller the pieces will be. And then.
So we have a question about the jalapenos.
Yeah, what's up?
Ginger's asking, can we cook the jalapenos a little to simmer the heat in them?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can make a roasted salsa really easy. Some people just take all the things that we just made, just cut them into big pieces, throw them in the oven on broil, and then you can just throw it either in a like a food processor or a blender, and it will mix it up for you. Or you can just mix it up yourself, because once it's hot, if you give it some time to cool, you can chop it too.
Excellent. Great question. And
Yeah,
Ashley is all done.
Nice.
Where are you, Ashley? Do you want to show us your dish, or you can send a picture?
Okay.
Wow.
Oh,
Looks
amazing. That looks
good.
great.
We're just putting them together now. And then there's the salsa.
Perfect. That's what I'm going to do.
Nice.
Cabbage, and then there's the fish. I did it in my air fryer.
I would
Nice.
have done air fryer too.
We use that for everything.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Right on. It looks fantastic. Thank you for sharing it.
Perfect.
So
So
I'm just gonna start making plates for my kids and stuff.
thank you so
All
much for
right.
joining us.
Thank you guys.
No problem. Okay, so I'm just cleaning up my space real quick so I can start plating. Okay. This part's the easy part. You just want to put your element on medium high. I would do like between 6 and 7. You don't need any oil for this. You just want to heat up your tortillas. So I'm just grabbing this. Got those ready to go. And I'm going to mix up my salsa too. So you just add salt to taste. You don't want to add very much. It's like a sprinkle. Like, it doesn't need much. It asks for sea salt in the original recipe, but any salt is fine. Sea salt's actually really strong too. So I'm just going to shake a little bit on top. I'm going to mix it up. Perfect. Doesn't that look nice?
That looks so fresh and bright.
So good. And it's like, I don't know if it said that in the thing that the write-up, but in the recipe it talks about how Pico de Gallo is like a little homage to the Mexican flag because it has the colors. I thought that was really cute.
It did.
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
And it also, yeah, it said you could cook it for basin soup.
Oh, awesome.
Or
Okay, so I got my
Okay.
toppings here. I do have cilantro. If you want cilantro, I can show you how to cut it.
I'm team no cilantro.
Yeah, I'm also team no cilantro, but I will show you how to cut it. It gives us a bit of time for that to heat up, but there's stems in this. I mean, stems in it, if you chop it fine enough, it's not a big deal. But I pulled out like a lot of them before we got started. So you just want to roll it into a ball like that. Cut it like that. And then you just sort of that same technique as the cabbage. You just chop it like that. And you can give it a cross chop. So if you like that on the top, you can put this in your salsa too. I'm gonna not do that, but you can absolutely do that. So you can just throw it on each of the tacos. I know my partner loves cilantro, so he would just put it right on the top. And now we're gonna heat up these guys. So I'm just gonna throw one on here. What I like to do when I'm heating this up is if I'm having cheese, then I also add cheese on this while it's heating up and it melts and it's really nice.
Oh, that sounds really good.
It also tells you when it's like getting hot enough too, which is sort of a nice little part about it too. Just gotta cut this. Okay. So I'll get one plated just to show you guys what it looks like and then you're free to go. And thank you so much for bearing with me on my first cooking class. It's been really fun. And I hope you continue to make delicious tacos because they're such an easy, delicious food. You can make them with anything. So I'm just going to put a little bit of cheese in the middle here. Just like that. Perfect. So once that melts, you can even crank the heat a little bit, but you just don't want to put it too high because you don't want it to cook the tortilla. You just want it to warm it and like maybe toast it a bit, but you definitely don't want to overdo it. Perfect. So I got my cheese here. I'll get a plate.
While Jen's grabbing that plate and getting ready to show us the assembled taco, I want to acknowledge her for jumping in, pinch hitting at the last minute, and knocking it out of the park. Home run. Well done, Jen.
Thank you. So I just threw some chips in a bowl here. That's just for the salsa. You can eat that like that, and you can also use it as a topping. So this is a great little thing to munch on with chips. Oh yeah, I forgot to add cumin. So you can also add a little bit of cumin to this. You don't need much, probably just about the same size as we used before, like even less than half a teaspoon, probably a quarter if you find it a bit strong. But I find it really like complements the flavor. You could throw that in there. And we probably have given you so much cumin now, you're looking for reasons to use it. So definitely a good way to use your cumin. Perfect. So that's good. Cheese is melting. Perfect. Let that melt a little bit more. You don't have to melt the cheese. I just find it a nice little step. All right. So we're going to get one plated here. Who wants the first one? Chris does. I'm just going to throw out some garbage while I'm here.
While we're waiting for that cheese to melt a little bit too, I want to acknowledge everybody that has helped to get everything together for our last 9 weeks, and especially Jen. She's the mayor of the village that it takes to put this program together. And also want to let you all know that we have been able to extend it. So if you are interested in participating again next week, you'll need to renew your interest. You'll need to let us know because we're starting our list fresh to give other people a chance to participate. I believe we've had about 65 different families participate over these last 9 weeks.
Perfect. So this is melting a little bit. I'm just going to spread it out. I put a lot of cheese, so it's taking a bit longer, but I'm going to grab this, throw it on a plate. I'm gonna grab some fish. I'm just gonna grab one more spatula. 1 second here. I'm short a spat. There we go. Perfectly small one. Excellent. So I'm gonna grab some of these nice little tasty fish pieces here. Right on. So look at that. Got that going. I'm gonna take a little bit of the salsa mixture, put it on the top. Perfect. I'm gonna grab some tongs, because those are always handy for something messy like this. You can still use a fork, it's just a bit more cumbersome. Grab some of this. Perfect. I'm gonna throw a little bit of the onions on there, just for color, and it's yummy, and a little bit of cilantro. And there you go. A pretty little taco.
Looks great.
Awesome.
Hope you
So
enjoy
that's
it, Chris.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that was good. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot us a message. And the video will be up too. Usually it's ready by tomorrow. Chris is super fast. So thank you, everybody. And thanks, Karen, for being an excellent co-host as usual. And yeah, enjoy your tacos with your family.
Thanks. And be sure to send us your pictures.
Yes, pictures. We
Have a
love
good night.
pictures.